What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet because she'll tear her head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have a very special guest, tremendous athlete all the way out in New York, Lacrosse pro. He's a co-founder of the Face Off Academy, coach of FOA NY. He's also the host of PLL, the Stripe podcast, and content creator, First Class Lacrosse. Guys, please help us welcome the one and only Greg Gurenlian. How's it going, brother?
Going well, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate the background, too.
I know.
It's powerful.
Well, I'm old now. I got to make sure people know who I was. That's
like,
for sure.
It's like I was saying off the podcast when we were talking, I was like, man, that was a beast of a run you had your last year. And I was like, oh, shit, it literally says beast in the back. I was like, there we go.
Yeah, people ask me how I got that nickname, and I actually got it as a joke when I was younger in high school because I was a really skinny kid who was trying to play lacrosse for the first time, and I sucked. So I ran around trying to ear hole everybody, and the older guys would yell at, yo, beast during the JV games, making fun of me. So that's how I got that name.
See, that's great. Something I still don't understand. I'm like, I see guys like you, huge, crushing it in the pro athlete space, and when they say, oh, if you guys only saw us in high school, we were like this, skinny, tall, but not having too much weight or muscle on. I'm like, how the fuck was I 225 in high school?
I know, I was fat as fuck. I was so fat.
You were endomorphs, man.
I had to walk through the door sideways, not in a good way, though.
I'm like, I was playing football at 225. I'm like, how the hell?
Well, man, I when I was in high school, I would have looked at you and what I would have been like, man, I'd give anything to have that weight. I thought I ate a lot. And it's funny, when I met my eventual mentor at Penn State, Brad Pantel, he was our strength and conditioning coach. He came in, he's like, yo, we got to put some weight on you, man. And I was like, I eat all day. He's like, oh, do you? You eat a lot of calories? I'm like, yeah. He goes, what'd you have for breakfast? I was like, well, I didn't have breakfast. He's like, shut up. So they put me on 10,000 calorie a day diet at Penn State. I went from 170 to 210 by the time I graduated.
You guys had a cafeteria like for the lacrosse team there? Because I worked for the football team at Syracuse, and I put on like 10, 15 pounds of like solid muscle. It was like ready to make like omelets. We had oatmeal. We had the works. I was like, oh,
yeah. Well, the halls at Penn State are awesome because there's so many damn kids. So we didn't get any preferential treatment, but the football team has their own cafeteria. We with all the everybody else, so we don't get anything special, but it's unlimited food, right? You go into a college halls.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's where you get your calories in for sure.
I gained like 30 pounds my freshman year. I was like 170. I bulked right up to 200. Didn't take long.
I was always heavy.
Well, dude, down here, the empanadas and croquetas, man, it's embarrassing when I go eat with him because everyone looks at me like, oh, are you, you're on a diet? And he's like inhaling food. Like, bro, breathe.
Yeah, he didn't say what the diet was.
Yeah.
It's an empanada diet. That's fine.
Empanada, that, right?
They're good, man. They're good. They're addicting. I can't lie. I'll smack. I had a couple this morning, honestly.
Well, and I'm sure, I know because you've been to Miami many times, so.
Yes.
I'm sure you've had your fair share.
So how'd you?
I don't eat that much when I'm down there, though.
Yeah. Well,
I'm busy at the pool parties.
Yeah, I was about to say, you got to look ripped.
It's an easy thing to do down here. How did you get your start in lacrosse? How did you pick up the lacrosse stick?
So I'm right outside Philly, Springfield, Delaware County, and Delco lacrosse was king. So wrestling and lacrosse were the biggest things, and my high school wasn't good at football or anything. So all the cool kids played lacrosse. So when I got into high school, I wanted to play. My friend George talked me into it, and I was a natural athlete. I played everything. I was decent at everything. Lacrosse was the first thing I'd ever played where you were limited to your skill set with the stick. So you could be the best. People are like, oh, could you imagine if like Marshawn Lynch played lacrosse? Yeah, that'd be sick if he was really good with the stick. If not, it's pretty much worthless. So it's frustrating. And like I said, I got the nickname Beast as a joke, and because I couldn't catch and throw the ball. So I ran around just trying to hit everybody. But I almost quit. That was the first time in my life I wanted to quit something. And you get made fun of every day at practice, and you grind and you hustle and you kill yourself. And you're like 6 years behind everybody else. They have the stick as their extension of their body, and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm like running around like an egg in a spoon trying to like hold on to it. People didn't want to be in my line drills. It was embarrassing. So yeah, I almost quit after that first year. It was tough.
What kept you in there?
One simple thing. And it's the reason I wanted to be a coach. I was prepared to tell the coaches after the last practice that the last game was going to be it for me, and to thank them for everything. And I don't know if he had a sense of it or what, but after the last practice, one of the assistant coaches, Rick Johnson, he came over to me. He's like, "Hey, I just want you to know, it's been awesome coaching you. I know it's been a frustrating year, but you are always first in the sprints. You're always the first and last person, that sprints on and off the field during games. You give everything you have." And I remember standing on the corner field, he put his arm around me and he goes, "I promise you that if you keep playing this game, you're going to light the world on fire." And I remember getting in the car, driving back, or my parents picked me up, and I'm sitting in the car and I tell my dad, I'm like, "You know what? Actually, I think I'm going to keep playing, because now I feel like this person is invested in me. Like, I don't want to let this person down. What's he going to think?" He goes home after saying that to a kid and they quit anyway. I'm going to go for it. And I never would have if he didn't say that.
Isn't it crazy how one person can have a huge impact on somebody's life? I find
especially
that
a coach, right? Like coaches are so integral in a young athlete's life. A lot of young men. Like, I didn't have my father wasn't around growing up, so my coaches were like the extended fathers that I had in the community. And I definitely know that I'm not alone in that. Coaches make a huge impact.
Yeah, that stuck with me the rest of my life, the way I looked at everything, not just as a coach, but just as a person. I was bullied and when I was younger. I tell my coaches that I bring on, and I'm an oldest of four. I always tell my younger brothers, never miss an opportunity to say the right thing, right? Like, even if you don't know if the kid needs it or not, just say it. And I try to take that with me when I'm coaching, but I also try to take that with me in life or with teammates. And I think if you put that out there, that energy out there, it'll pay back in spades. But just the knowing that you tried it helps you sleep at night. You know what I mean?
100%. No, that's amazing. And I want to ask you, since you did mention what kept you in there, because you knew you wanted to coach one day. You were even thinking about, like you're saying with your coaches, before convincing you to keep playing, but you had thought about coaching. You had a long career. I know you mentioned before we got on the podcast, you were like 12 years older than what the standard age of lacrosse players were. You even went to you mentioned states your last year. I'm comparing high school. So went to championships your last year. So did you know through that time frame that you were always going to end up being a coach one day? Or is it more like, let me continue my career and maybe this can happen?
Yeah, it was coaching in different forms. I went to Penn State wanting to be a phys ed coach, teacher. I wanted to be a phys ed teacher. I loved phys ed. Penn State's phys ed program is bananas.
Huge.
It is so hard. Yeah.
Really?
And I got there, and after the first semester, I remember going to my counselor and being like, okay, this is not what I thought it was. It's a lot harder. I'm going to do it, though, because I love it. But I just need to know that if I put the next 3.5 years into this, then I'm going to get a great job. And she was like, well,
nah.
She's like, phys ed is tough.
Yeah.
She's like, because you could end up at a cushy private school or something, but you're going to be one of the like 0.01%. Most folks end up at a job where you're basically throwing a basketball over the fence, and that's kind of it. So I spoke to my strength coach, and this guy changed my life. I loved his energy. I loved the science behind what he was doing. And I moved from phys ed to movement science at Penn State. And then I took the strength coach route, and I loved the strength training route. That was my first profession. I loved it. So I always wanted to be a teacher of some sort, but I ended up getting in that way.
How was that for you transitioning from phys ed into strength and conditioning? I have my master's in exercise science and health promotion as well. And I, at a young age, like when I was going through my master's program, realized like, I don't think strength and conditioning was really for me. It's so cutthroat. And I would love to get your take on how your experience was in strength and conditioning and how you kind of handled the volatility that could come with that type of career.
That's a great question. So for me, my life, I have never been somebody who, like, I wasn't prepared tools wise for the next step of each part of my life. I got to college. I was not prepared for, like, I didn't know how to study correctly. I had never taken an SAT preparation course. I went to college completely unprepared for college, and I figured it out. And then when I was looking for a job one day, when I was thinking about what my career would be one day, I hadn't been a lot of places in life. I traveled up and down the East Coast for karate tournaments and stuff, but I haven't been anywhere. So my scope of life was very small. And of course, dating myself, this was the pre-social media area. So Facebook was just coming out. So I didn't really know what was out there. So for me, I'm going to be an assistant strength coach at Penn State and then hopefully get an SEC or a Big Ten strength coach job. That was my goal. And that's how small my scope was. I didn't know what else was going to happen in my life from year to year.
Yeah. Sounds pretty familiar, honestly. It sounds exactly like I was completely unprepared as well. And when I went to FAU for grad school, and when I got there and my boss, the head strength coach there, who had been with like the Tampa Bay Lightning, had been at University of Minnesota with Cal Dietz. When he almost got fired 2 separate times because the head coach got fired, I was like, oh shit, like this isn't like Madden, where like people like it's someone's real, but you don't really connect it until you see it in person.
You're
where
right.
It's like, it's like you see it on the bottom of the ticker on ESPN. You're like, oh, someone got fired, and then you really see like what that means and what happens down the chain for like the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
You're like, shit, like it's
a lot of lives.
It's a lot of lives, and it's super. Like he would be like, okay, listen, guys, like he was a great guy, taught me a lot, but he like, listen, I got to go try to find another job, so you guys might have to coach a team here or there for me. And you're just like, shit, like he's got 2 kids, a wife, like it's a tough life, and people don't think about that side of it.
What changed for me? Brad was so good because he was a very tough boss, and as soon as I graduated from Penn State, he moved from, so he was doing men's, women's lacrosse, field hockey, a couple different sports, but he wanted to transition over because men's, women's basketball was about to get a big injection of financial support. And he wanted to go over and just focus on that. So he's like, come on board, be my assistant strength coach. I was working with him as a volunteer for years as an undergrad. So I went over and worked with him, but he was very demanding, and I was still waiting for the financial okay from the AD that I could be a grad assistant. So I wanted to get my master's under him. So meanwhile, I'm also bouncing to try to make some extra cash, working at GNC at the mall, and I'm trying to be a strength coach. And I learned quickly, like, wow, we are literally at the beck and call of the coaches.
Oh yeah.
So he'd be like, look, unless we know otherwise, we're in there at 5 a.m. and we're programming and we're waiting until coach makes his mind up about what we're doing each day. Wow. And I was like, man, this is not what I thought it was.
Yep.
And then one of my buddies came back that I played with. I was a key student at Penn State. He's like, yo, I am working at this Reebok fitness gym at Columbus Circle in New York City. He's like, if you're a Penn State grad, you're way overqualified to be a personal trainer. He goes, why don't you, before you decide you want to live in Center, PA the rest of your life, why don't you just come out and interview and see what it's like? That was the first time I thought about personal training. So I went out there and interviewed and got the job. And literally the interview was like, here's an anatomy chart, name the muscles. I was like,
all right.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You guys are pretty strict, huh? And then I made the move. I just made the move. It was a financial decision, honestly, to make the move and go into the private sector.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because our friend Todd Anderson, who was my boss here at Equinox on South Beach when I first started, he was a football player at Michigan State. So I walked in there, and like thinking like I'm still in the strength coach side of things. I like walk in there with like a whole like notebook of like periodization. This is what I've done. These are what my athletes like numbers have been. And he just looks at it and goes, dude, you can put that away. Like you know, you just got to understand, just work hard, be patient. You're going to be fine. And he's like, any questions for me? I'm like, what are we doing here? Yeah, you know, I was like so confused.
You went in there, you're like, here's my CSCS, my USAW, and my degree. And they're like, you have a NASM though?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Shit. Yeah. So good.
That's how it is, right?
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
It's really interesting though, like when you hear stories like, you know, I hear Josh when he left that, you know, you hearing, you know, you leaving your area because of money reasons as well. You see that often in the training world. A lot of personal trainers leaving the strength and conditioning world because personal training is more lucrative.
Well, you get sucked into it, right? The aura of being the strength coach at Alabama or, you know, or Penn State or, you know, Syracuse sounds great. Sounds great on paper until you realize, like, those are 3 jobs, you know, 3. So that's 3 people out of the entire, you know, United States that are able to call themselves that. And the path to get there is a lot tougher than you would ever think it could be. You know, 90, 100-hour weeks. It's rough.
So and results. You have to get results. You have to get results. Or you're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So were you playing lacrosse at the same time at this time?
That's how my story is weird, because I started playing lacrosse late. I never expected to play college lacrosse. I just wanted to make varsity one day in high school. And then all of a sudden, the summer before my senior year, all of these recruiting letters started coming in. I always wanted to go to Penn State. My whole family went there. I grew up, I could tell you every quarterback at Penn State since 1989. Wow. Tony Sackett. And I that's where I wanted to go, but I had no idea how I was going to get there. Like, I wanted to play basketball, but then I stopped growing. So it's like, okay, 6'1" is all you're getting, homie. And then when I started playing lacrosse, I got those recruiting letters, and Penn State came in one day. And I just remember being like, yeah, I'll go on recruiting visits, but this is my ticket. This is my dream to go to Penn State. When I got to Penn State, I never expected to go pro. And then all of a sudden I started getting these letters like, hey, we're going to bring you into the combine. You're going to be draft eligible. I was like, holy crap. So I got drafted in 2006, and I played for Rochester.
Right.
And Rochester Rattlers. And I was doing it on weekends. I was like, I'm a pro lacrosse player. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know if I'm going to get cut tomorrow, whatever. I'm going to have fun with it to make some extra bucks. But I was driving from Penn State every single weekend, making it work. And it's a long trip. And then all of a sudden I kept playing. I got traded to San Francisco. Long story short, I got put on waivers because that team shut down during the recession. And I remember I came and played for New York my first year, and I blew my knee out in 2011. And I remember sitting on the couch after I blew my knee out thinking my career was done and being like, I hate myself. Like, I've never been a 50% person. And I feel like I never gave everything I had to the talent that I'm given. I'm one of a billion people that gets to play professional lacrosse. And even though I'm not a millionaire, it's a special thing. I should have taken more care of it. So I spent that entire summer applying biomechanics that I knew as a USAW to the face-off position. I wrote an entire training system. And then when I got back after rehab, I dedicated myself to that system. And 9 months after my knee surgery, I came back and I broke every single personal face-off record. And every year after that, I broke my records. Until 2015, I broke every professional record. And that's when, after that first summer, me and now my co-founder were like, we should teach other kids this stuff. So we did. All-American after All-American after All-American. Next thing I know, I'm selling my personal strength training company, Brawlic, and I'm going full in on FOA. And that was how I went from a strength coach who played lacrosse on weekends to a full-time lacrosse face-off coach.
Can you start sending those All-Americans back to Syracuse? I would really like our program to start doing
Ben Williams.
Yeah, Ben
Williams. Your all-time record holder, Ben Williams.
Fantastic.
And your current guy who's going to break his records, Flop. Yes.
Fantastic.
Coach both of those guys.
Great. Love that. Love hearing that.
Well, great. Yeah, every guy on your roster right now, it's a face-off guy I've coached.
Yeah, really? Amazing. Yep. We need that, man, because when I was there, I was at Syracuse 2009 to 2013. It was rough going to some of those lacrosse games. Like, used to winning some national championships year in and year out, and then I'm there and we don't win one. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, that's really funny. That's how I was at Penn State with football.
Yeah.
I was like, I grew up watching us pump people by 50 points. What happened?
You're like, yo.
Like,
That's great.
yeah. Well, lacrosse is interesting because it used to be like you go to Long Island, you go to Philly, you go to Maryland, and you watch the showcase there, and then you pick the best kids, and all the best kids either go to Hopkins or Syracuse or Virginia.
Yep.
Now,
Tons of
there's
great
a
schools.
showcase every single day in one part of the country or another, and there's kids from California, Minnesota, everything. So there's parity now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more fun.
I mean,
What's the top school in Florida?
So you have Jacksonville as your D1 team, Jacksonville University. They're in the SoCon.
How are they?
They're good. And in fact, one of the best goalies of all time from Syracuse, Galloway, is the head coach down there. And he's doing a great
really?
job.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah. I didn't know that. The Powell brothers are from my area in upstate New York. They grew up, like my uncle lives in the town that they went to high school in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Casey, I played with Casey and I played with Rhino, and I played against Mikey.
Savages.
And that's
those
just
absolute savages. Yeah. You want to,
Casey
I'll
could
show
pick
you
up
some
a
of their
stick right
highlights.
now and
after
go
that.
Yeah, Casey Powell could pick up a stick right now at his age and go be an all-star. Like
he's incredible. Incredible.
That's insane. That it's so funny. I love hearing when you hear about the different sports and like the passion behind the different sports and the excitement behind the different sports. It's really cool to see that. And I wanted to ask you, tied in with that, where did you find more passion in? You being the athlete or you coaching?
Oh, what a great question. So when I was on the field with the helmet buckled up and my eye black on, it was the ultimate release because I could kind of just let loose with my emotions and be like a savage version of myself.
Love it.
That's what I'm going to miss the most, like playing through the pain, those really tough moments. So that passion to win for guys that you're in a locker room with is huge. However, I got to experience something so special. I got to reach my absolute ceiling and potential in something, which is face-offs. I know that for the rest of my life, I know that I was as good as I could humanly be at one thing. And I so desperately want every kid that I meet to feel that because I think it's such a special thing. That the passion is definitely there. And it's different because when you play, you have full control. When you coach, you don't know if the kid's going to listen to you or not. They don't quite understand. And I don't like inception. Like, I don't like trying to convince you that you need to do it. Parents will be like, Greg, tell him he needs to, hit the wall. It's like, I'm not going to tell him shit. Like, if I got to tell him, he don't want it that bad. And it's okay. That's okay. But the difference is there's also other people out there trying to do what I do from a coaching perspective. So when you see it done wrong, it like eats you up. And the business side of you should say, yeah, good, he's doing it wrong. Like, let the consumer compare apples to apples and see how much better I am. But the big brother in me is like, damn it, this poor kid is taking the scenic route, man. So I think I have more passion for coaching because I don't have full control. So it keeps me up at night.
And how has your mindset changed from being an athlete at, the highest level to now being able to, instill a lot of these values that you learned as a player into your athletes?
I always say coaching prepared me to be a father more than anything.
It's amazing.
I was so ready to be a dad by the time my son came along because I had been used to not being listened to for years. So, it was good to practice being ignored. So when to say things and when to lay off the pedal a little bit. And you also learn a very important fact, which is you have to coach everybody slightly different. Some guys need a kick in the ass. Some guys need a pat on the head. Some guys need to be reminded of how good they are. And some guys need to be reminded that they're not as good as they think they are.
Which one were you?
I was the guy that I thought that I wanted to be coached by people that were hard on me, when the best kind of coach for me was someone who would stop me from being too hard on myself. The coaches that would pull me back from, I tell my kids all the time, don't play injured. I did it for years. I did it because I thought it was helping my team. I didn't want to let my coaches down, etc. Now I'm the 37-year-old guy who has to deal with all those injuries, and no one's calling me every morning to see how I'm feeling. So like, you know, I was so tough on myself. My high school coaches were awesome about pulling me back and being like, dude, like we played yesterday. You can't even move. Sit out practice. That's what I need. Those are the kind of coaches that helped me the most. But the ones I loved, the ones I was drawn to, were the guys that were really
Gritty.
tough on me. Yeah.
What's really cool though is that you going through these experiences is like now you can put that light on your students, your clients that you're working with, because it is important, you know. And I think now more than ever the era has changed where now people are paying more attention to like recovery.
Thank God.
Making sure you're resting correctly, so that we can actually perform, not just balls to the walls every single day in the games, in practice, you know, battling through injuries, and then it's like shit, you know. So. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got to battle that. No days off. No days off. You're like, you better take a day off.
Yeah,
you better. You need a day off.
I mean, I even have to do it with my some of my clients are highly competitive, and they're no. I'm going to go cycling, and I'm like, no, you're not. You're not.
Yeah.
And I'm up early, so if I walk by your house,
yeah.
I'll tell them like, listen, I'm up early, so if I walk by your house with my dog and I see you pulling your bike out like I normally do, like I'm gonna be pissed off, you know. and then you're gonna have something to pay.
Well,
for.
the thing is, we've lived in a culture for many years that we think it's just
go
on
go
and
go
on
go
and
go
on
go.
and on and on and on.
Throttle
you know,
it.
and it's just like if not, you're not gonna succeed, and if not, you're not gonna make it or be the best, you know. And it's just like. Yes, it's great to have that attitude to a certain extent, but you have to understand when you need to take those breaks in between, or when you need to like slow the gas pedal down just so you can take a breather and actually like pay attention to what's really going on. Because it's just like if you keep going with a car, you don't stop. You know.
How do those conversations go with the kids?
So I always use the lifting adage, and I'm just kind of like, look, you don't grow while you're lifting. You grow while you're resting. Same thing here. If you go every day, at what point are you going to be able to reflect? Mm-hmm. If I teach you the best face-off move ever, and you immediately do it, and then you just keep training every single day, when are you going to stop and be able to be like, and examine it and say, am I doing this efficiently? You have to take those days off. And especially with face-offs, because face-offs are so unique in the ball is always in the same place. Biomechanically, you're always attacking it at the same angle. So you're repetitively being in this unbalanced position with your body. And it's the most injury-prone position in our sport because of that. And the kids get wear and tear. Now, on the other side of it is another opponent, and you're getting constant impact with your right arm every single face-off. And I have kids that are in high school that have taken probably more face-offs in their career than I have. I never took face-offs in the offseason, and I keep telling them that. I'm like, I never faced off against anyone in the offseason. I obsessively worked on detail and technique. And that is the key. That's why this is such an easy equation. It's like an Olympic lift. If I just go out and do Olympic lifts every single day, that's great. But at some point, my nervous system is going to be shot, and I didn't take any video of my form. So how do I know I'm even doing it efficiently, right? So it's hard. It's hard to pull kids back because they want what you had so badly. You know, they're like, Greg, I want to do what you did. Please don't tell me you got there by taking days off, because that goes against everything they tell me in America.
Well, it's not Instagrammable, you know,
right.
Like
exactly
sitting there with like a little Theragun or sitting in an ice bath. I mean, maybe the ice baths are starting to be.
Yeah, those are getting a little popular.
Those are getting popular, but
yeah.
But
well, that's
it's
where
not
I
sexy,
up.
right?
Yeah, that's where I messed up as a strength coach. If someone had just told me you could have skipped getting a degree, you didn't have to go work at Penn State. All you had to do was put fit at the end of your Instagram handle and take your shirt off. And you would have had, you know, and that's the key.
That's hilarious.
That's all I had to do.
I know. It's so great. I mean, listen, my sister is getting her degree in physical education right now. And when she was thinking about getting into exercise science, I blew my mother's mind. I was like, she doesn't have to go to college. Like, she can just come work for me. You know, I'll give her 40 books. She can give me $300 and, you know, I'll save her, you know, 10X in student loan payments. My mom's like, what are you talking? You did this and that. I'm like, listen, these are all huge mistakes that I made.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it, they were great learning experiences. I needed them at the stages I was at in my life, kind of like you. But, you know, man, they were expensive. super expensive.
And you know what? You want to believe so desperately, and I'm not knocking college.
No, me either.
We were sold that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Go to college. You have to go to college to get a good job. And I remember coming after, I guess it was like my junior year. I came home to visit my parents because once I got to Penn State, I went to classes year round. Came home to visit my parents, and a kid that I graduated with didn't go to college. He just went right into the he was an electrical contractor. Mm-hmm. He went and became an electrical contractor. And I drive by he's got a new house. He's got 2 vans out front.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm asking my parents for pizza money. What happened? Like, where did I go wrong? And then you leave college and you're $23,000 in debt. And I was a scholarship athlete, and I was still in the hole.
Wow.
And you're working, countless hours, living in a random room off Craigslist in New York City. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I was told I had to go to college.
Yeah. You'd throw up.
Right.
You'd throw up if you heard my student loan number. You would throw up.
You know what? My youngest brother is the smartest of us all, and he became a lawyer.
So he knows.
So he knows, and I understand how high that number can be.
Yeah, I'm probably not far off from where he's at, to be honest. Like everything I got was out of pocket, and there was no one there sitting down with me when I was talking to the loan provider, being like, you probably don't need to take out $20,000, for your semester of grad school. Like, you can get a part-time job training people, even though I was working in the weight room. You can get a part-time job at some gym. You can kind of do odds and ends, like sell shit on eBay if you have to from yard sales. But whatever you do, don't take out this fucking egregious loan at this high-ass interest rate. It's like no one was there.
Nope.
But it just goes to show, like we talk about it all the time, because he took the complete opposite path that I took, and we're both sitting here today. So it's like, you can go the more formal route. Like you said, I'm not knocking it either. I took it, I don't have anything against it. But there are other ways to get there as well, and Mendez is a prime example of that. So I love bringing this up and talking to different people about it.
I still get my parents like, so when are you gonna finish school, or like when are you gonna get your degree? And I'm like,
you're like, are you kidding me? Don't even look at my tax returns.
Yeah. Well, I think when I graduated and I was in that situation, I had convinced myself for own personal self-preservation that if you didn't have a degree in kinesiology, if you hadn't been a strength coach at some point, then there's no way you're qualified to even be a personal trainer. And I convinced myself of that because I needed to believe that. Now I look back on it and I go, does it matter if a professor taught me this or if a book taught you that? Knowledge is knowledge and experience is experience. So did I really need a degree to tell you how many muscles are in the quadricep? No. Like, you could have read that in 5 seconds, and I'm jealous that you did it that way. But knowledge is knowledge, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the path you take. All that matters is that you're educated on it and that you want to help people with their lives. That's it.
And what's crazy is that now with so much access to many resources out there, it's like you can find anything now. Obviously, if you gotta search
YouTube University, man.
Right, YouTube University. Obviously, you got to go to the right sources, but it's just insane, to see how, like, especially in how things have shifted, and that's why you're seeing more of more kids just trying to steer off the different direction. Now entrepreneurship is the whole sexy thing to do, which also at the same time I think there's a lot of been watered down to where people just want to plug that name in there.
Yo, bro, I'm a CEO, man.
Well, they don't even know what goes behind being a CEO.
Yeah.
But it's really fascinating, though, to see, like, with the different time eras and, the different experiences and kind of the different ways that people have gotten to certain, areas of their life, kind of like saying, Josh and yourself with the conventional way, the typical way that our parents say, hey, you got to do this. And then, other people who have gotten there the unconventional way. And if you guys are in the same trajectory of, hey, I got this passion and this goal I want to hit, you guys kind of end up meeting at the same point. Like he was saying, like, look, we're still sitting here, and it's just like, shit, what if I didn't have to do all these steps. Man, what if I just did this? I would have been saving myself on this. Shit. It's like for example, my brother was telling me now, he's like, dude, I want to go back to school. And I was like, what are you going to do? He's like, well, I want to get this and this. And I'm like, do you really need it for what you're doing? And he's like, no, but I just, I got to get it because it's going to make me more qualified. I'm like, is it going to make you more qualified?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be, you're telling me it's going to cost you $15K, do you want to spend those $15K or do you want to be able to be in $15K debt? He's like, not really. And I was like, well, I go, talk to your boss. I go, he's a prime example. He never went to school, you know what I mean? So, and he's a multimillionaire. But it's just one of those things where it's just really crazy to just see, like, too, now with the whole with the way that things are moving forward with our era and, you know, the youth, and just seeing all the differences compared to back then. And, you know, hopefully hopefully parents, I guess, themselves continue to educate themselves so they can educate their kids. Obviously not discounting college, but just to position them in the best position possible for them to win whatever decision that child wants to do moving forward with their life, and just making sure that, hey, if you want to do this, that's okay. But also, you know, keep in mind, it's going to take this level of work.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way to deliver that message. My son is 4, and, you know, I grew up in a house where my parents were awesome, but my parents had put a very heavy, I guess, a focus on grades. Got to get good grades. Got to get good grades. Can't be a troublemaker. Got to get good grades. Got to go to college. Got to get a job. You know, be a boss. I want my son to obsess over learning, not grades. I want him to have a love for learning and empathy. Those are the only 2 things that are important to me. If he's empathetical and he worries about making sure people around him are okay, and he focuses on learning regardless of what it is, if you have a hunger for learning, then you will go and you will learn. And the learning in school will take care of the grades. And the learning for, you know, having a good job, you'll find your passion because you want to learn so many different things that you're going to find something you're really into. So those are the only things that I care about. I think if you have a desire to learn, then, you know, you can be a strength coach, you can be a personal trainer, you can be anything. Yeah. Because you understand the value of the knowledge, and then you want to impose that knowledge on other people and give them those tools.
So, right. Greg, what are some of the things you're doing now? Because I know you know, 4-year-old is still young. I have a little 2-year-old girl. But what is some of the things you're doing right now to start instilling that into your 4-year-old about learning and about, you know, being empathetic? What are some of the things you're doing now that a 4-year-old can start doing?
So I tell people all the time, I didn't learn, I give my parents a ton of credit. My parents both came from pretty undesirable family situations growing up. And the fact that they came from that and they are so open and they care about other people, you know, growing up, it was a shock to my system, honestly, growing up. And when I would see any kind of racism or bigotry, because it just wasn't a thing. Like it just, so like I learned by watching. And that's basically what I'm saying. I didn't learn to hold people, you know, the doors open because my dad told me. I didn't say, you know, I didn't learn to say please and thank you because my dad told me. I watched my parents do it. I watched my parents treat everybody with equity, or equality. I watched my parents treat, you know, a job. Like I watched my dad. He was a electrician growing up, worked double, triple overtime to make ends meet. He never complained about it. He went out and did it. So that's the kind of person I am. I don't complain. I work. And I know that I need to make sure that I just do my thing in front of my son. And when he asks questions, be there to answer. I don't want to jump out in front of him and explain things unless he asks. I want him to think about it himself. You know, if you see like, you know, he saw a cardinal for the first time when he was little, and you see like the head just kind of, why is that one red? You know?
That's scary.
And you know, and he asked, and I told him there's different kinds of birds, just like there's different kinds of people. They're the same thing. They just have different colors. And, you know, he comes down there and he wants, you know, you want to do what dad does, right? So he wants to work out with me. I'm teaching him, you know, Daddy, why are you doing this? Because it does this. Oh, wow. These things do these things for your body and blah, blah, blah. So I am very much about teaching by just living and bringing him with me. From day one, you know, in the little, you know, the little chest carrier, bring him with me everywhere, show him this is how you do things correctly. And answer questions as they're asked. And that way he learns to walk the walk himself, but he learns the value of asking questions when you need them. I'll always drop everything to answer anything he has to ask me, for sure.
That's amazing. No, leading by example is definitely the most powerful thing to do. Whether you're a parent, a coach, a teacher, a mentor, it's so true, man. Like when you can actually just show yourself and, you know, take the actions on yourself to do that in your everyday life, your students, your kids, you know, your your mentees, they're going to learn from you just because of your actions. And I think that is so true, that more people now, instead of so much focusing on like, okay, how can I make them the best at this, or how can I focus on pouring on more, that's just like, hey, focus on you being the best. And by you being the best, you're already teaching them how they can be the best version of themselves. And I think that's amazing, and it definitely amazing to hear, because your 4-year-old is going to be an absolute savage. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Well, I think, I think sports have taught me a lot, especially from playing in, like, I've played in gold medal games. I've played in championship games. I've played on the road in hostile environments. My competitive juices, I've used them on the things that's important. So Jax is very athletic for his age. I can tell. I kind of wanted him to just go be safe and play piano somewhere, but that's not going to be the case. So when it comes to athletics, I want him to understand, one, your self-worth has nothing to do with the scoreboard. It has everything to do with what you do in the meantime. I have parents who come up to me, they just assume I'm a hardo because I played professional lacrosse. They're like, oh, what's he going to play? And I'm like, I don't care. It's like, well, as long as he tries his best, right? Like, not really, honestly. Like, if he wants to just be on the basketball team because it's fun with his friends and ride the bench, great. But don't complain you're riding the bench if you're not outworking those kids. Like, if you ever come to me and say, Dad, I want to be a starter. All right, dog, I'll show you. I'll show you how to be a starter, man. But it's going to take this. It's up to you. I just want to be happy. Like, I think that's what people, as soon as you have a kid, what percentile are they? What, how tall are they going to be? Like, he smiles a lot, man. And he laughs. Like, it's all good.
True, though. So true. It's like, I look at my little one now and I'm just like,
bro, she reminds me so much of you.
She does these things, and I'm just like, man, I'm just enjoying that. And I'm like,
yeah. And
it's so funny because sometimes we forget to just enjoy those moments, and then you miss them because you're so focused on like, well, if I don't do this with them, or if I don't focus on this, or they're not gonna be this, and and it's just like, just enjoy the yes. unique beautiness that comes out of your kids, right? And it's just like, that's what true happiness and the true essence of living and being is, and I really love that. Now I do want to talk a little bit, since we did mention at the beginning of, before we started the podcast, about that last run that you had that last year, going into the championship game before retiring. Did you think about retiring that before that, or was that one of those stories where like, well, you know what, I gotta give it one more shot? How was that? How did that play out?
Yeah, I did retire. I played in Major League Lacrosse from 2006 until 2017 was my last year. And
what a run.
I averaged almost a surgery every 2 years. And I played for a really long time. The shelf life average for a starting face-off guy in professional lacrosse is like 4 or 5 years maybe. So I had a great run. And in the 2015, we won the championship. I broke every single record. I had a great season. But in 2014, I was on Team USA in the World Games, and we lost in the gold medal game. So that stuck with me. I thought that was it for me because I'd be too old for the next World Games. And then when the next coaching staff came in and they started tryouts, I went to the first weekend, and I remember coming home to my wife and saying, you know what, I think I might want to play for these guys. Like, this is a really good coaching staff. Like, I think this is the one that can get a gold medal. I think I want to try. And she was like, look, we want to start a family. You're going to have to make a decision, because we had Jax in 2016. So she's like, you can either play one more year of MLL and play in the World Games in 2018, or you can play 2 more years of MLL and not play in the World Games. But you being gone for a full summer, now that we're going to have a 2-year-old at that point, it's just not. And she's been a good soldier, man. And especially because I started FOA in 2012. So I was gone all the time for coaching and playing. So I decided that I wanted to give a run at the World Games and make up for the silver medal. So I played my final year. I told everybody before the season started, 2017's it for me. The New York Lizards team I played for gave me a phenomenal send-off. And then I focused on the World Games. We went out, we won a gold medal. And when we won a gold medal, I was like, my last moment on a lacrosse field is going to be a gold medal. That's, I did it. Like, I could sleep happy. And then when I got home, I got a call from Paul Rabel, who is the founder of PLL, and he was a teammate of mine. And he said, we're going to start a new league. You know, I was asked to come on and help with the face-off rules of this new league to make them better. And after months of talk, Tom Schreiber called me and was like, you want to play? And I was like, dude, don't say that too loud. My wife's going to kill me. So we went back and forth, and I said, look, honestly, it's going to have to be, you have to pay me enough where I can go to my wife and say, look, it's going to be worth it, but I need to do this, because if this is going to be the new league and I'm not part of it, I'm missing out on something, especially from a business standpoint, right? My clinics and all that stuff, games are going to be on NBC. Like, I can't miss this. So she was like, fine, 1 year, that's it. So I came out of retirement for the PLL, played 1 year, and it was weird because I was so much older. You know, in the World Games, the other face-off guy on our team, my teammate Trevor, he was one of my proteges. He's 12 years younger than me. He was the other face-off guy. So I was very well prepared for being the old guy, but it actually benefited me a lot because I used all of the things I knew over the years to kind of counter what all these young guys were good at. So I was able to neutralize every single guy I was going against. And I was, you know, over 50% in every game, except for one game. I tore my hamstring in the first quarter, and I played through it like an idiot, and completely trashed my leg. So after that game, I remember my wife calling me and being like, haven't learned a thing, have you? 14 years, haven't learned a goddamn thing. So we made a run, went to the championship game in Philly. And because that's where I'm from, we played in Union Stadium. It was unbelievable experience. Like, stadium was packed. People were chanting. You know, Maya was playing up for Redwoods. Everyone was yelling Roll Woods. And I just remember like going out for the overtime faceoff and just looking around the whole stadium, doing a 360 and being like, man, how lucky am I? Like, I got to be here way longer than I should have been. And in this championship, my last game, I'm over 50%. I'm doing my job, and we're in overtime. Like, we didn't win that game, but man, what a run. Like, amazing. I'm good. You know, I'm good.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Greg, I want to just say, you know, thank you for coming on the podcast. Been amazing to hear your story. You know, I never played lacrosse, but obviously growing up where I grew up and going to school where I grew up, lacrosse was like the main sport, obviously other than basketball at Syracuse. But, you know, Syracuse lacrosse was, you know, the mecca when I was growing up, and to hear your stories about your playing experience at Penn State and professionally is just absolutely incredible. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with our audience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Really thanks, guys. It was awesome. I appreciate being on here.
100%. Thank you so much again, man. Before we wrap things up, I know I want to ask you a question, but I want to give you the floor just to be able to let people know where they can connect with you, where they can find you, any new projects you got going on, or with your coaching as well.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So GregGurenlian.com is my personal website that has my links to my YouTube. I have a lot of fitness and face-off stuff on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/GregGurenlian. GregBeast32 is my handle on every social media. So I'm on everything through that.
Awesome.
And then, of course, as far as the Face-Off Academy goes, you know, we have our Western Showcase in April. We coach, you know, thousands of kids, whether it's recruiting, coaching, online teaching, all that stuff. So if you want to come to the faceoffacademy.com, if you're a face-off guy or you know someone who is, there's a great chance that we have already coached you or you need to get coached up. So we're ready.
Beast. And last and final question. What's the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one sentence?
Know your worth.
I love that one.
Boom.
That's
know
great.
Your worth.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you so much from the beast himself.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you guys go check him out. Check out Face Off Academy as well. We appreciate you coming on. Until next time, everybody.